Yeah, it's about time. The final episode of this series. Yeah, I know the 1 month gap, okay? I know it. How many times have I said yeah in this intro? I mean, that must be a new record. Anyways, this series has started over 5 months ago, and today it officially ends. Today, the better game will be revealed. Keep in mind, these are all my opinions. The series ranged from the tutorial to speedrunning, to gameplay, to dungeons, to story, and now, it's time to determine the better ending overall. And if you haven't watched the previous videos, I would highly recommend clicking off this video to go watch them. If you have and you are ready for this episode to begin, go ahead, sit back, and watch everything unfold. Before I start, I want to quickly remind everyone how this goes. Every new episode, there are 3 categories supporting an overall category. Today's overall category is the ending, which contains the 3 categories of entrance to the final boss fight, and the ending cutscene. After each category, 1 point is won for that game, and whichever has the most category points at the end of the episode adds 1 overall point to the game. For example, the overall points right now are Tears of the Kingdom 3 and Breath of the Wild 3. The final point added today decides the winner. Also, for every new episode I release a poll so that the community can also affect the score slightly. Whichever game wins in the poll acts as 1 category point, helping to figure out an overall point. Anyways, that's it. It's now time to begin. Entrances to final endgames are great. They get you hyped up for what you're about to see, and in Breath of the Wild, you would have had just gone through all of the dungeons, got pretty good armor, and would be ready to go destroy Ganon. And if you were a true gamer, you would have also gotten all the memories so you can fully understand the story and have a complete experience. Cooking is essential for fights in both games, and you want to make sure you are fully prepared not just for the fight, but for the challenges before the fight. In Breath of the Wild, the final fight takes place inside of Hyrule Castle. The castle is surrounded with different types of guardians, and it's obvious that this is where the endgame takes place. This is the final battle. You get on your horse to ride as far as you can to the castle and separate. Evil is all around you, and it's time to put it to an end. You are the only one who can stop it and destroy Ganon. It's the player up against the world, with no help. The castle is surrounded with high damage weapons in order to prepare you for the final fight. As the player, you can choose how you want to get to the Sanctum, where the final fight starts. You can put your Zora armor on from earlier in the adventure and climb up those waterfalls, or wind bomb yourself to the top if you're a really experienced player and know the glitches. This moment feels incomparable to any other game, where you are climbing to the top, reaching for that end goal to destroy the Calamity and free the princess. To make up for your past failure in saving the kingdom, you're avoiding guardian lasers left and right and slashing all the enemies you can to prepare yourself for this legendary showdown. And finally, it's time. You are about to enter the Sanctum where it all goes down. The music is intensifying and the sky is going red. It is time to enter the fight. Zelda is holding back the evil the best she can, but it's too much. Ganon's body falls on the floor and cracks it, falling down into the abyss below. Now, if you did all the dungeons and freed the Divine Beast, 4 lasers will rain down on Ganon and take away half of his health. If you didn't free the Divine Beast and did exactly what you were told not to and went straight to the castle, well, you have to fight like 4 bosses in a row, so good luck. I believe in you. Both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have boss rushes like this. The Tears of the Kingdom entrance is different than in the Breath of the Wild entrance. Yes, it is at the castle, but there are a lot less enemies in the surface surrounding it. The music is calmer on the lower part of the castle, but as you go higher it becomes louder. There is the presence of some enemies, but if you go to the Sanctum, nothing will happen. I should also mention I'm not counting the whole sequence with the fake Zelda and Phantom Ganon because that does not include the final fight. After completing the 5th stage quest, you finally get the quest to destroy the Demon King. The Demon King is not on the surface or in the Sanctum, but rather in the depths below the castle. So you walk to the edge of the chasm, say goodbye to seeing light, and jump into the deep pit below. This sequence includes a chain of enemies and events starting with Horriblins. What a horrible name, am I right? After you get past those, there is a Lionel you could fight for better weapons, or you could just cowardly run away. You can continue fighting enemies along the path to the final boss and run into Gloomhands, Bokoblins, Gibdos, and all kinds of monsters. Eventually you make it to where you started the game, and you can now clear the rocks that cover the murals. You can see that Zelda always had this path laid out for her, to become a dragon and heal the Master Sword for Link. You keep going deeper until you find where Ganondorf was imprisoned back at the beginning of the game. Now there is a large hole there, dropping into darkness. I also love this detail, but after you jump down, you can find a torch, which is actually the torch that Zelda dropped at the start of the game. Then once again, you head even deeper where the boss rush happens. The music for this part is absolutely insane and makes it obvious you are close to the Demon King. You have to fight a wave of Bokoblins, Lizalfos, Gibdos, and Moblins. You would fight all the temple bosses and Phantom Ganon if you hadn't already done those fights. If you had, the sages would refight them themselves and you would head straight to the Demon King. So those are both the entrances in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Which would I say is better? This was a very tough decision for me. I love them both so much. The fear of dropping deeper and deeper and knowing you were getting closer to the Demon King was quite insane, but so was the journey up to the top of the castle, avoiding guardians while the music just became more and more intense. The sky became a darker red and moved faster, and this told the player that it is endgame time. I think Breath of the Wild had more of an impact on me, and had all these characters who failed and now depended on you to end it. It was just way more emotional for me, and I think that really affected how I saw the entrance to the final boss. This point goes to Breath of the Wild. Okay, now it's time to talk about the final boss fight of Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild has two bosses at the end of the game. The first is Calamity Ganon, the evil you have set out to destroy all this time. Calamity Ganon is a spider-like creature that is formed from malice and hatred. I love the cutscene of Link taking out his Master Sword, ready to thrust the sword into Ganon. Calamity Ganon has a mix of attacks that are like all of the blights that you've already defeated. For example, he has Wind Gusts, a trident like Water Blight, a Fire Sword, lightning, and can also shoot ice blocks. He has a Guardian Laser like the other blights too. The key to hitting him is to fire many arrows at him, parry his guardian shots, and hit him with the Master Sword or any weapon, but the Master Sword is pretty effective. He can hang off from the ceiling and can throw fireballs at you and other ranged attacks. In his second phase, he creates a bright orange force field around him. To disable this shield, you have to use Urbosa's Fury or Perfect Parry one of his shots. It will then give you an opening to attack him. Some things I love about this boss fight is the environment in which you are deep under the sanctum in this large dome arena, and the music. Oh, the music is just so good. Zelda games would not be Zelda games without the music. After finally beating the Calamity, he transforms to his boar-like form, Dark Beast Ganon. Zelda entrusts you with the Bow of Light, which is the key to beating Dark Beast. This item fires light arrows, which is something that has been seen in older Zelda games like Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, usually in an ending dungeon. I love this callback to the other games. For this final fight, you ride around on your horse, waiting for weak points to show on the beast's body. In this fight, you actually have to wait for these points to show up, which can be annoying, but it does give you a chance to listen to that awesome music more. And finally, you shoot your last arrow, and Zelda uses her power to wipe out the evil beast. And that is the final boss fight for Breath of the Wild. The Tears of the Kingdom fight starts with dead Ganondorf speaking and powering back to his normal self. I really like this because you actually are talking to another human instead of fighting another monster. And of course, the fight starts after Link pulls out his Master Sword. The first phase of Ganondorf is very similar to the Phantom Ganon fight. He starts with a Gloom Sword, and I just want to say I also love the details in the environment of the fight. The moving cloud mist on the ground when he takes a swing at you, it's a small detail, but it adds a lot to the fight. The music has not yet hit a climax, but that's because the whole phase is just Ganondorf's warm-up. Ganondorf can also do a spin move with his sword that also spreads a small section of gloom outwards. He can switch his weapon with magic and can go to a spear or a club. The trick for this fight can be lots of flurry rushes or parrying. He can also do a move where he slams his club into the ground, causing it to hurt you greatly and spread gloom. With this, an updraft is created so you can paraglide up and shoot him with arrows. Once that phase is over, the real fight begins. Ganondorf uses the Secret Stone to power up to his Demon King form. With this, he has other projections of himself. The sages are now able to help you because they defeated the temple bosses in the other room. In this phase, the Demon King is very fast and light on his feet. He can send out gloom towards you too. After this phase, he has one more. He takes away all his projections and knocks out the sages. Now it is just you and him. In this stage, Ganondorf is not playing easy mode. He is very quick and can even flurry rush your flurry rush. I mean, he could dodge your flurry rush. How insane is that? This makes it a lot harder to beat him too. He has new move where he can surround you with these gloom clouds and gives himself a bow that shoots gloom balls. These gloom balls can permanently take away max health from you. He also has a move with homing gloom projectiles and can make a very large range dash at you. When you finally beat him, it's still not over. If you have paid attention to the lore, you'll know that when you swallow a secret stone, you turn into an immortal dragon. Well, what does Ganondorf do? Just like that, he swallows the secret stone and takes you up to the surface for what is now the final battle. Zelda is also a dragon, so she rushes to your aid to help in the battle. This part where Ganondorf rushes up to the surface, it looks kind of like Calamity Ganon, like the form that you see far away from the castle in Breath of the Wild. If you do not have the Master Sword, you are given it here for free, because it's the best weapon to steal away the darkness. This fight is honestly just really amazing. The music is top notch, the skies are beautiful, it is everything I ever wanted for a cinematic final battle. You jump down from Zelda and fall into the Demon King, and use the Master Sword on the eyeballs sticking out of him, or his pimples. One problem I have with this fight is eating the stone should make you an immortal dragon, and when Zelda did it, she did not have these weak points on her. But even so, this fight is still amazing. After you hit the final eyes, the music starts to pick up and the sky turns blood red. The secret stone is glowing on the dragon's forehead, and you use one final attack to end the Demon King. He blows up into a million pieces after that, and like seriously, is Hyrule okay after that explosion? Looks like they're not okay. So those are the final fights for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. This one is a no-brainer for me. Tears of the Kingdom is an absolutely fantastic battle. The story may have not justified it completely, but it was absolutely insane. The amount of attacks Ganondorf has, and then the final battle in the sky riding on a dragon to destroy another dragon, it's beautiful. This point goes to Tears of the Kingdom. After beating Dark Beast Ganon, Zelda is now saved. The final scenes of Breath of the Wild show the princess admiring what you've done for her, and thanking you. She asks you this question: do you really remember me? This is obviously because Link has lost all of his memories, but you had the chance to regain them through the game. If you did collect all the memories, you get an extra scene at the end where all the fallen champions and the king stare out into the kingdom of Hyrule. They all vanish, which I think signifies that they're free from this burden. They all had a duty to help the hero put an end to Ganon, and now that he did, they're all free. This part hits me hard because they don't get to live for the new days of a free kingdom. Of course, that doesn't last long because, you know, there's gonna be tears over the kingdom now. But you know, they would have had a few good years, like 7. Now, in the next scene, Zelda says that one of the Divine Beasts stopped working. This could be the explanation of what happened to the Sheikah technology in Tears of the Kingdom. Maybe everything just broke down. I guess we'll never know. Finally, Zelda says she cannot hear the voice in the sword anymore. This is alluding to Fi, the sword spirit in Skyward Sword. So that's the ending for Breath of the Wild. It's a calm, nice, soothing ending, and that makes you realize how far you've come in your journey, and all the characters you've learned about, how you failed to save the kingdom 100 years ago, but have made up that failure. Tears of the Kingdom's ending has you using your arm from Rauru to help turn Zelda back from a dragon into Zelda. Rauru and Sonia place their hands on yours, and it turns her back into her normal self. Quickly, you wake back to reality and are falling through the sky, and you must catch Zelda with the Tears of the Kingdom main theme playing. This part felt so great and so magical to me. It was one final challenge. You catch Zelda and fall headfirst into a body of water, which by the way would kill you in real life, but it's a game, so those rules don't apply here. Zelda wakes up after you carry her out of the water, and after thousands of years for her, she can finally put all of this behind her and live out the rest of her life in her home. Even though the story of this game was not told in the best way and had weak characters, I will admit it is insanely sad how she had to live as a dragon in the sky for so many years, with no memories of her life, like at all. So when she is now here as a person again, it really hits. There were a ton of plot holes in this ending, like how would she have been able to turn back? How would she have been able to remember Link when flying in to save him from Ganondorf? It doesn't really make sense, but this ending was still so beautiful and happy. Final scene, if you got all the memories like you did in Breath of the Wild, it's of Minoru and all the sages, plus you and Zelda and Pyrrha at the Temple of Time in the Sky. Minoru says she has to move on now, and she fades away to join Rauru and Sonia. All the sages and Link then make an oath to protect the princess, and it zooms out with the Legend of Zelda theme playing. So, yes, this ending, bit controversial, I've seen in some people, but it does put a smile on your face. So the final category of this series, it has all come down to this. Remember that these are all my opinions, and I totally understand if you like one of the games over the other. The games are both fantastic in my opinion, with some having better things than the other. For example, I think Breath of the Wild does have a better built story because of all the characters have something to them, while the sages in Tears of the Kingdom don't even have their names revealed. I think the gameplay is better in Tears of the Kingdom than Breath of the Wild, with lots more options. I do think the menu can be annoying to sort through, but overall the gameplay was boosted from Breath of the Wild. And I think the champion abilities are mostly better than the sage abilities because of the way they were put into the game, with assigned buttons instead of having to chase them down. Each game has something better than the other, and in my opinion, they are both worth playing. So, for the game that wins this category, is Tears of the Kingdom. Its ending is beautiful in my eyes, and the final catch was just an unmatchable moment. Sure, there's a lot of plot holes, but the ending still delivers a ton of emotions. Finally, let's take a look at the poll for this episode. 97% says Tears of the Kingdom is the better final boss and ending, and 3% says Breath of the Wild does. With this, the poll adds 1 category point to Tears of the Kingdom. For today's episode, the category points are Tears of the Kingdom 3 and Breath of the Wild 1. Which adds 1 overall point to the final score, making Tears of the Kingdom have 4 points and Breath of the Wild having 3. Thank you all so much for joining me in this series. It was a lot of fun to make, and it has come a long way in which we started over 5 months ago now, although at the time of reading this, it's actually been longer than when I wrote the script. Again, if you don't agree with my take, I totally understand and respect your opinions. Feel free to talk about it in the comments which one you were rooting for. I also want to thank you all for the recent support. My videos have been gaining more attention and have been dragging in even more Zelda fans. So if you are new to the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button so you can see more videos like this, share with other people you know, and I will see you all in my next Zelda video. Take care.